All right, let's get right into it. Today, we're looking at a story that's a wild mix of love, deception, and the crazy world of cryptocurrency. It's a huge cautionary tale about how scammers are using modern tech to pull off old-school cons. And the results? Well, they're just devastating. All right, let's get right into it.
And when I say devastating, I mean it. Just look at this number, $1.4 million. This is how much a man from Colorado lost. We're talking his entire life savings, his retirement fund, everything, gone. This number alone tells you we're dealing with one of the biggest crypto romance scams investigators have ever seen.
So, you might be wondering, how on earth does something like this even start? Well, it begins with something incredibly simple. Something very human. When the victim was asked about the woman who scammed him, this was his first response. See, it wasn't about crypto, it wasn't about making a quick buck, it was about connection, or at least the promise of one. To really get how the crime worked, you first have to understand the so-called love story that was the weapon here. So let's break down exactly how this incredibly elaborate trap was set. It all kicked off with a man who was unhappy in his 20-year marriage. He was looking for a connection on Madison, a site that's, known for being discreet. And this part's really important, because that feeling of vulnerability, that desire for something new, is the exact thing the scammer was looking for. Now this is where the scammer's methods get really interesting. She went by the name Erin, and she didn't rush things at all. She spent weeks building what felt like a totally real relationship. We're talking daily photos on WhatsApp, FaceTime calls to prove she was who she said she was, and these really deep conversations about shared values. She created this perfect character, an attractive, successful business owner, making herself seem completely trustworthy. Okay, so once that trust was totally locked in, the romance took a very sharp turn into finance. So now let's look at the mechanics, the nuts and bolts of how this love story turned into a perfectly planned digital heist. It is just shocking how fast this all went down. In just 6 weeks, the victim went from meeting someone online to losing absolutely everything. Erin was clever. She sold him on crypto as a smart way to protect his assets during a potential divorce. It was paced perfectly. Just slow enough to build trust, but fast enough to drain his accounts before he even knew what was happening.
Now, the really crucial part of this scam, what makes it feel so real, is a technique they call pig butchering. It's awful, I know. But here's how it works. They start you on real, legitimate crypto apps, names you'd recognize, for small investments. This builds your confidence. Then, they convince you to move to a fake app that they control. On this app, they can show you these incredible but totally fake profits. Once you're convinced and you move your life savings over, poof, they're gone.
Let's be super clear about the difference here. A real crypto exchange is a regulated company. It's a known financial platform. A fake one? It's just a website. It's an app designed to look real, but every single number, every chart is completely fake and controlled by the scammer. It's like a digital mirage designed to trick you into walking right into their trap. So, with the money gone and Erin having vanished into thin air, the victim was left with the horrible task of picking up the pieces and calling the police. So what happens then? Where does an investigation like this even start?
Because of the huge amount of money involved, this case went straight to the Colorado Bureau of Investigation, or the CBI, and they've since said it's the largest crypto romance scam they've ever seen, which just goes to show you how sophisticated and, unfortunately, successful this operation really was.
This is the million-dollar question, right? Literally. The victim wants to know, the cops want to know, we all want to know. Can $1.4 million in crypto just vanish?
And here's the tough part. In the crypto world, it kind of can. The investigators were able to trace the money to something called a cold storage wallet. The easiest way to think about this is like a digital safe that is completely disconnected from the internet. The owner is anonymous, so the money is just sitting there, locked away behind a wall of code.
And this quote from Special Agent Zeb Smeester of the CBI really gets to the heart of the problem for law enforcement. He says that without cooperation from the crypto exchanges the money moved through, their hands are basically tied. They can follow the digital breadcrumbs for a while, but then they just hit a dead end.
This story is, well, it's alarming, but it's also a really powerful lesson. So let's pivot from what happened to him to how you can make sure this never, ever happens to you or anyone you know. Let's talk prevention.
Okay, so let's talk red flags. If a new person you meet online seems way too good to be true, they probably are. Someone telling you they love you almost immediately, who has a perfect, flawless backstory, and who quickly starts talking about money, that should set off major alarm bells. And if they always have an excuse for why they can't meet in person or do a real video call, that is a massive, massive warning sign.
At the end of the day, you have to build a firewall between your heart and your bank account. The number one rule is so simple. Never, ever send money to someone you haven't met in person. Period. Be super skeptical of any investment advice from a stranger online. And please, if you feel pressured or just unsure, talk to a friend or a family member. Sometimes a second pair of eyes is all it takes to see the scam for what it is.
And look, if you ever think you're a target, please don't feel ashamed, report it. Report it right away. In the US, you can file a complaint with the FBI's Internet Crime Complaint Center, which is known as IC3, and also with the Federal Trade Commission. Reporting is so important, not just for you, but to help the authorities spot these patterns and protect other people from becoming victims.
And that brings us to our final thought. These scams are so brutally effective because they tap into two of the most powerful human desires: our desire for connection and our desire for wealth. So, it's really worth asking yourself, when you're online, what are you truly looking for? Because knowing your own vulnerabilities is always the first and the most important line of defense.